Smacking Off the Podcast's college football wrap-up is brought to you by Doyle Hardgrave Construction, and also by $8 a month auto insurance.
Less than $100 a year, but we still got you covered.
And now, Smacking Off's college football wrap-up with your host, Shannon Madden.
And welcome back to Smacking Off the Podcast. This is our college football wrap-up. Sunday night. Doug, what's going on?
Fuck if I know. Let me think.
I didn't even announce you. Doug Phillips, my co-host and producer, but everybody knows that.
Everybody knows that shit.
Yeah.
Washington lost.
Washington did lose. I think, Tiggy, we need to talk about that immediately. Stanford Cardinal. Strange fact, they do not have the bird, the cardinal, as their mascot.
No, it's somebody.
I found that out one day.
I think it's talking about the cardinal as far as in the Catholic Church.
Like the guy who's like the lieutenant for the Pope.
Something like that.
Yeah, the Pope's lieutenant.
Of course, they use a tree, so.
Are they a Catholic school?
They ought to be if they're going to use that.
I mean, seriously.
If not, then I think the Catholic, what's the name of the Catholic corporation?
Notre Dame.
They need to sue them.
Yeah, Notre Dame definitely needs to sue them, particularly for beating Washington and throwing the pack in complete upheaval.
There was some interesting games this weekend. SMU almost got knocked off, and
the fact that they actually rose in the polls.
I thought they did lose.
I really did. They were 30-9. It was like 5 minutes left in the third quarter. The third quarter was winding down. They had nothing. They were completely out of gas. And so there's no sense in even trying to attempt to fuck with this game. And I completely forgot about it, and then kind of checked it later, and my jaw dropped because I could have swore that SMU lost. And they wound up rising in the polls as a result of it. I don't know why. SMU has
resilience.
Yeah, I guess. Whatever. The bottom of the top 25 is completely irrelevant now. Have you noticed that? And unless there's a complete upheaval at the top, the bottom 25 is going to continue to rotate in and out. We had, who was it that dropped this week? Washington. That's just, and then they dropped from, I believe, 15th. Is that right? 15th, 16th,
they are
something
out.
like that.
What are they, 26th or 27th?
Yeah, they're just actually in the AP poll, I believe it was Minnesota. Minnesota is 5-0 right now,
yeah.
And why they're not in the top 25 and Texas A&M with 2 losses? I know those 2 losses are quote unquote quality losses, but that's still a little surprising.
How's it going, Robert? Anybody got any questions? Because
Texas A&M is the only 2-loss team in the whole entire top 25 right now, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
But they are the only team. They lost. Well, Auburn's not top 10 anymore, but
no,
those days are over. They may come back, but
their schedule definitely. I mean, they still have 3 top 25 opponents left in their schedule right now. So yeah, there's always a chance for them to creep right back in. Particularly because you have some of your top 10, your current top 10 teams are going to face one another before the end of the season. So we got a little bit of that. You want to go ahead and bring up the top 25?
Well, yeah, we can do that.
Not much change at the top. However, Ohio State and Georgia tied for 3 is very interesting. Ohio State is still rolling right along. No drop-off whatsoever. I guess the same could be said for Georgia. They picked on poor old Tennessee.
Here's what I think should happen in a situation like this. If this was to happen in the CFP poll on the last weekend, what you do is you let LSU in at 4th, and you let these guys play a one-time game after the conference championship games for that 3rd spot.
Yeah, but then you still have if all the records are still set, which obviously Florida won't because they have to face they don't face Georgia this year.
Who?
Florida.
Oh yeah. Every year.
Yeah.
No, they play Florida. They play Georgia.
Who am I thinking of? No, I was thinking.
They play Georgia
else.
every year.
I was thinking of somebody
That's
else.
That's the world's largest.
World's largest cocktail party.
Just party.
Yeah. So that's going to take care of itself. Wisconsin and Ohio State will eventually take care of itself. Notre Dame still hanging in there at 4-1. Now with that quality, quote unquote quality loss to Georgia. What else we got?
All right, let's see. You got Oklahoma. Well, did you talk Oklahoma already?
I didn't talk about Oklahoma yet. And Oklahoma is still very curious to me. Also, one team that just snuck in the top 25 this week was Baylor at 5-0. Which I don't know. Let's count the Big 12 teams that are still undefeated. We got Oklahoma. I'm looking. Hang on, I'm looking. There's 15. That's Utah. It's Michigan.
I think it's just Baylor and Oklahoma. That's it.
Yeah, Baylor and Oklahoma. That's it.
And let's just go ahead and throw SMU into the Big 12 too, if y'all want to.
I think we should.
I mean, they should be there. They're in Texas. I mean,
yeah,
they should be there.
SMU is still very suspect if they can't handle a lowly team like Tulsa. And Tulsa has fielded a couple
They handled them. They were playing with them like a kitten with a June bug.
Apparently so.
Something like that.
They were playing with all of our emotions that day.
Yep.
Wake Forest is still looking a little suspicious there at 5-0. Talking about the ACC, and I was in a little spat, I guess you could say, with Tiggy Doms on the Facebook there in our group #FamilySmack.
I didn't see that.
He's trying to convince me that the Pac is way light years better than the ACC, and I think they're roughly the same conference.
I've invited him and Dane both on. That would be a really good segment.
And I know the ACC is top heavy, but I mean I think top heavy should also count a little bit towards right now we're looking at how many Pac-12 teams in the top 25 here. We're going down the list. I have to go all the way down to number 13 to find the first team, which would be Oregon. Let's see here. Who else we got here? Arizona State. Yeah, that's it. That is it. That is motherfucking it. 2 Pac teams in the whole entire top 25. Now, we also have, let's see here. We have Clemson.
1 second.
And Wake Forest. Is that it? Virginia. So I mean, no, the ACC is actually now that I'm really looking at the brand new top 25, AP top 25, because I was having this conversation with him and really hadn't studied it, and I'll be damned. Yeah, the ACC is better than the Pac. If we're going just strictly by top 25 teams alone, yeah.
Well, you get into a conversation with anybody who's taking this position, they're going to say that you can throw the top 25 out because it's media bias and this and that, and there's no way to win.
I don't know, but at the same time, we're just casual fans. Neither one of us is affiliated with a network or any writer service or anything like that. Then I think that's what makes this program so unique.
Yeah, but we're buying into that's what they're going to.
But are we? Because I've watched a vast majority of these teams. I'm not going to say that I watched every single team on this list, but I've watched a vast majority of them, and I think that's a pretty honest assessment. There's a couple little small changes I would make further down past the top 10, but I think the top 10 looks about like it should for the moment, because again, you're going to have teams that are going to face other teams in the top 25 that'll throughout the rest of the season that will eventually straighten that out as far as where they're really truly at.
Speaking of the top 10, here's your top 10 teams in action this weekend. Clemson and Alabama took a nap.
And Clemson and Alabama both cruised through this weekend.
They did.
You could say they almost sleptwalked through this weekend.
Yep.
So yeah, there's not a whole lot to talk about between 1 and 2. But number 3 was at Tennessee. Georgia handled themselves exactly like they should have with this just embarrassing Tennessee team.
Tennessee looked like they played the part for a minute.
Yeah, for a second, like they always have. The hope that they instill in the hearts of their fans.
I think we need to get Tim Bailey. Well, Tim Bailey's coming on this week, but we won't be talking about this. But we might want to get Bailey on because Bailey had some good assessment of what Tennessee last night. Did you read Bailey's his post about Tennessee? He was basically saying Tennessee is not talent. There's no talent problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's something else. He was saying they had just as many blue chips as Wisconsin does, and
Bujo seems like he had some decent recruiting classes while he was there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean there's talent to be worked with here, but we're also talking about a brand new, well, not brand spanking new, but relatively new head coach at a very just extremely volatile situation there at Tennessee. You see, Phil Fulmer actually came out and spoke on camera, and I'm not going to take that job. I mean, come on now.
Ohio State struggled. They Well, I mean, I don't know how good Michigan State is. I think the line was 20. They barely got it, but I still think that this is the best team in the country right here, Ohio State.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, they're very suspect number 4, or excuse me, tied for number 3. Yeah, they were number 4.
I say go ahead and move them number 1, but I guess they're not going to do that.
And again, they're going to face some really good teams coming up.
So at that point, they may inch on up there.
Penn State's kicking.
I want Alabama, even if Alabama remains undefeated, I want them to fall back to 4th at some point. Seems to be a good place for them.
They'll probably will after they allow a touchdown and a field goal to LSU, and we still beat them by 45 points. So it's going to happen. That game's in Tuscaloosa. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Speaking of LSU, they beat probably Texas may be a better offensive team than Utah State. Utah State has some good numbers offensively.
They beat national powerhouse Utah State 42-6. The Golden Arm.
I'm not going to have a problem with Utah
strikes
State.
Again.
Utah State is a good group of 5 team.
They are.
Their quarterback has a tendency in these big games, like they did against Wake Forest, to turn the ball over, and that's LSU is good enough to ram your face in it if you do that shit.
They do, and they did.
Oklahoma and Kansas.
Fucking Les, man.
No,
Les gave me a little hope there for a minute.
He covered. He covered. What more can you ask for?
Well, I mean, yeah, this is true. What Kansas team, especially one that's this dismal, because speaking of talent, there really isn't much talent at Kansas at all. I mean, at all. Les walked into a complete dumpster fire there.
Mm-hmm.
And was still, still somewhat respectable.
I think Bailey's going to be wrong. I think they're going to win maybe a conference game or 2.
Jalen didn't put up the huge numbers that we're accustomed to seeing him put up this season. There was a little bit of defense there from the Jayhawks, but they were still able to form a really good ground attack, and that made up for a good bulk of the score that we see.
I'm still, my mouth is still hanging open from the Auburn-Florida game.
What a fucking ugly game. And it was so reminiscent. Somebody came on in group and said
I really believe that Auburn was better than Florida.
Said something about Kentucky, and it was like, man, this really does look like almost the same damn game. It's penalty-laden, a lot of missed opportunities, a lot of turnovers, interceptions. I mean, this game was just sloppy as shit. It really was.
In Auburn wins close probably, but
yeah, this was a slightly unexpected. Most of the nation was actually rallying behind the Tigers to win this one. Because they've looked like a slightly better ball team coming into that, with one glaring exception, except for. And I know I'm gonna piss off the Auburn faithful because they love this kid, but Nix is just not all that in a bag of fries, and you're gonna need all that in a bag of fries to be able to handle yourself in the top 10. As the season progresses.
Yep.
But they'll figure it out.
Especially on the road.
They've got to face Georgia and Alabama, so they'll figure it out.
All right, Wisconsin, they registered another shutout.
Did exactly what Wisconsin has done all season.
Now, how many shutouts does Whiskey have?
That's a very good question,
because in this day and age, shutouts, did I even spell that right? Who cares?
Yeah, you did.
All right, good. Wisconsin football.
Pull up Wendy, Wisconsin.
No.
She's a naughty girl.
Can't do it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I got the parental block on here. Yeah. You're not going to be looking no porno on the company computer.
Well, fuck. Let's see here. Wisconsin.
I guarantee that we've got at least 4 people that have just Googled Whitney, Wisconsin right now. They've got a tab open as we speak. She's on Pornhub.
Damn it.
What are you doing here?
I'm actually looking for this year's Wisconsin team.
Oh, that's not 2019. That's the one you're looking for.
I want to see how many shutouts these fuckers have.
You just went right past it. You went right past it. Yeah, you did. Right there.
Okay. Let's see here.
3 out of 5.
Yeah, that's
South Florida, Central Michigan, and Kent State.
I don't care who you're playing. It's hard as fuck to shut somebody out these days.
Yeah.
Because all offenses have a little something or another.
A little something. I mean, South Florida has been a really good offensive team over the past few years. I believe they lost that hotshot quarterback.
They look fucking terrible right now. Of course, they've got who's their coach? Former Texas coach.
Who? Mac Brown? No, that's
No.
North Carolina.
No,
Who?
he was at Louisville before Charlie Strong.
Oh my God, I haven't heard that name in forever. I didn't
Yeah.
even think I thought he was coaching a high school or something now. Well,
No.
essentially he is, I guess.
I think he will eventually be coaching high school. I do. But yeah, three shutouts. That's fucked up. It is. Notre Dame, they handled Bowling Green like they were nothing.
Bowling Green is nothing.
That's true, but I wasn't going to say
isn't
that.
Isn't that the one where isn't that the one that David Letterman graduated from?
Isn't
Where's
that
that?
Ball State?
Ball State. Yeah, you're right. That's in Indiana.
Yeah.
Oh well. All right. Sorry. My apologies to the people in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I did not mean to insinuate that probably one of the greatest interviewers that ever lived went to your college.
All right, so if we're talking about the biggest losers of the week, and we're going to go through 5 here, I'm going to let you pick. Who do we talk about first?
All right, Tiggy, let's do it. Washington. Chris Peterson. What more can be said? And actually, Eason as well. Eason, the savior quarterback, was going to come for the SEC and pretty much spread all of his magic and love throughout Washington, and it's just not happening. It's really not. He had a very lethargic day yesterday against Stanford Cardinal, and I don't know. They're cooked. They dropped. This is the first time they've been out of the top 25 in how long now?
Their goose is cooked.
Yeah, I mean they've remained camped out in the top 25 for I don't know. I guess they kind of squeaked back in last season and have hung around ever since.
Oregon's really the only thing that's left.
That's it.
But Oregon needs Auburn to really keep winning, and of course that didn't happen this weekend. But if Auburn ends up with one loss maybe or something like that.
I mean, if you look further down at the little tiny little letters and votes down at the bottom of the top 25, you still got USC hanging around down there.
Washington losing hurts Oregon because if Oregon beats Washington now, it's not going to mean as much. Washington still had an outside shot at somehow having a streak. They beat Oregon. Auburn still does good. Washington just took themselves out.
This is a really bad Stanford team. There's no reason that this loss, especially as lopsided as it was, there's just no reason that should have happened. None.
Nope. All right, so man, let's go ahead and talk about these guys because they just went ahead and getting chopped down. Getting chopped down a few weeks ago was pretty bad.
Speaking of leaving the top 25, UCF has been camped out there for quite some time since their very extremely erroneous supposition that they were part of the Power 5. In fact, they were part of the Power 6 and have really tried to do what they could to not only bring their conference, which is what the American, correct? AAC?
Yes.
Yes. They tried to bring their conference into it, but at the same time they did that for their own personal gain. And so they have quietly risen and hung around the top 15 for quite some time now. Won quite a few games, and then suddenly the rails started coming off. And the wheels started coming off, and they definitely came completely off this
they were
weekend
a
against Cincinnati.
big time program there for a while. Or they really seem like
we have chitter chattered about Cincinnati on this program,
but then they've kind of reduced their.
But Cincinnati is handled, and this has been my whole argument with UCF this whole entire time, is that a top 10 team
What do you think?
handles. Yeah, that's it. That's perfect.
All right.
A top 10 team handles a team like Cincinnati. Now, Cincinnati may come in with some talent, and they may come in with a pretty good game, and they may actually make it interesting for a quarter, maybe a quarter and a half. But a top 10 team consistently handles a team like that week in and week out. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's by UCF.
Man, I hate to try.
Don't let the good Lord hit you where the
good Lord split you.
Yeah.
Don't let the doorknob hit you where the good Lord split you. Something like that.
Something like that. I've completely lost interest in UCF.
Speaking of that crack in your ass, Tennessee. Matt, a lot of people would say that they're not really a big loser here because everybody saw this coming. But this team, I have to agree with Bailey. They looked like they matched up well with Georgia, but at some point it looked like it just the wheels came off. I don't know if it was confidence or just bad scheme. I don't know. Maybe we should have Tim Bailey on at some point to talk to the Vol fans and tell them what he thinks is going wrong, because
Yeah, it's going to be very tough for us to get a Vol fan on for a little while, anyways.
Yeah, they're a little sore.
And give an honest assessment, other than the fact that Pruitt needs to go and Fulmer needs to go ahead and select somebody else. And of course,
I think he should just name himself coach.
I think he just needs to go ahead and quietly. He didn't make the right choice. It's no big deal. Hey, we lose sometimes. Pruitt came with a pretty good pedigree, save and train. I stole him straight off of the campus.
There's always that chance, though. Anytime somebody goes from being an assistant to being a head coach, that they're not going to make that transition.
Yeah, being an assistant to the master of the game, which is Nick Saban.
I mean, it's obvious that Kirby Smart was prepared. He was ready to make that move. Pruitt, I don't know. I don't see it. Something's not right.
Well, and look, I don't believe in taking a. I don't believe that a program, particularly like Tennessee, and I've said this on this program numerous times, that a program that's as prominent as that is him.
No, it wasn't him at first.
We're watching Foot Fist Way while we're doing this podcast. We are being so irresponsible right now.
Yep.
Jody Hill movies are amazing. Danny McBride.
Yep.
I'm telling y'all, go see the Mighty, I think it's on Netflix or one of the things, but the Mighty Gemstones, the one with John Goodman, great show. I'll say.
Is it HBO?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, HBO. But if you're on that dank Fire Stick vibe, or would like to know how to get on it, just hit us up, and we'll let you know how to see all that stuff.
Yep. We got perfectly legal ways to do this too.
Yeah.
Where you
100%.
Stick it to the man.
100%. Cut that cord forever for free.
Mm-hmm.
My inbox is blowing up right now. Dick pics, please.
All right. So yeah, Tennessee. What are they? 1-4 now. 1-7 is going to taste bad. It's going to taste worse than a fucking rotten corn dog. And that's a fact.
Do they go completely winless from here on out?
I believe UAB can beat them.
Yeah.
I mean,
UAB won this weekend.
Yeah. I believe they beat Rice. I believe UAB can beat them in Knoxville. That's going to be a very, very important game for Tennessee, because they're probably going into that game. Is that after the streak of the hard games after South Carolina?
I believe so. I think it's their homecoming.
Yeah.
Oh, that will be so sweet.
If
my Blazers beat Tennessee,
they very well could be 1-7 going into that game. So
they could lose to both Alabama and UAB this year.
Could happen.
How hard of a fucking is the University of Alabama going to put on Tennessee this year? Oh man, I can't wait. I hope Britt's still coached by then.
Biggest loser of the week, in my opinion, is Auburn. Auburn they were a top 10 team. Everybody believed it. Matter of fact, there was a lot of people saying, maybe they're the best team actually, because they had beaten two teams that were perceived.
In every other way, they have looked like a team that could possibly get there, with one glaring exception, and that's Nick's.
But they have played better opposition than Alabama has, than Clemson.
True.
Has. They did play, A&M played both Auburn and Clemson. Auburn played them on the road, though. Mm-hmm. Played A&M on the road. Yeah, Auburn has definitely played better opposition, but I don't think that Auburn is in Clemson or Alabama's class at this moment. I think Alabama would score 40 on Auburn.
Yeah, but then we're also only talking about one loss.
Yep.
But I don't know. It's not really, for me, this loss wasn't so much about Auburn as much as it was about Florida and what Florida truly looks like. Auburn actually came with a good game plan. Auburn could have won this game with the plan that they had. They just don't. They didn't have the talent to execute it at that level. They just didn't.
Right.
Just straight up, didn't have it. So I mean, where do you and Gus has been there how many years now and didn't have the talent to beat a brand new on the rise Florida program. I mean, Florida hasn't been doing massive, huge recruiting here lately. There's no reason that Auburn shouldn't have been able to at least match them, if not beat them in talent.
Right.
At most of the positions.
And I say Alabama would score 40 on Auburn, and I know Auburn's got a good defense. I'm saying that because, I mean, Florida figures out how to score 24 on them, and Alabama's receiving core is unfucking believable. There's no way that Auburn's going to be able to line up against Alabama and put enough pressure on Tua to stop.
I will have to give a slight nod to Trask, though, even though his numbers weren't terribly, super impressive. He still got the job done and just about had his leg broke off.
Well, he thought, but they took him back, and then he come back out jogging. So, but he did have a brace on. I think he thought that
I think it was a much more ugly looking injury than, or as far as when it happened than what actually happened.
Yeah, I think he was just scared.
It's like when you see a kid on the playground fall on his head, and you rush over, and you're thinking that the child's dead, and he pops right back up and kind of whines for a second, and then runs off.
The way it was though is I think that he just figured this figures. He felt a bad pain in his leg because his leg bent a little funny, and he's been like on that squad down there for 4 years, I think. And has been playing his ass off, practicing his ass off to get this position. He gets the position a few games down the line, and he figures, oh, yeah, my leg's probably just broken half because that's my fucking luck. I guess that's what he was thinking.
Yeah.
But, no, he was good to go.
Came out and did what he was supposed to do to win the game.
Right.
So.
If he can do what he's supposed to do to win the game against Auburn, what does Auburn think that Tua is going to do? Even in where's that? That's going to be in Jughead Stadium. So.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm sure they'll figure out some kind of air conditioning problem that will happen at some point.
It's okay. Yeah. Alabama brings their own air conditioning.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything left?
Let me think for a moment. I don't know. There's not really anything that kind of grabs me.
Tiggy.
I think we've just about covered it.
Tiggy, where are you? Tiggy.
Yeah,
Tiggy, come on the podcast. We need to talk about this.
Yeah, Tiggy, we really need to talk about Washington and what happened here. I think he's just ready to talk about basketball.
I think that he needs to come on with Dane, and him and Dane need to talk about who's better, the ACC or the Pac.
Well, right now, if you just scan the top 25, the ACC has the edge.
Yeah.
From top to bottom, I don't know. I mean, you've got some pretty shaky teams in the ACC. And then you also have got some really what looked to be impressive for a moment here and there, a bunch of just mediocrity throughout the pack.
I didn't see what happened with UCLA, but I don't think UCLA turned the corner with that impressive comeback against Washington State because I believe UCLA lost, if I'm not mistaken, and they didn't look good in losing. I'm guessing Oregon State. Is Oregon State the worst Pac team still? I think they actually won yesterday.
I would have to go back and look at our standings right now, but yeah, you're probably right.
Oregon State.
Spell it with a T.
Did I not?
That did you?
No, I did kind of.
Okay. Start.
All right.
I was actually not looking at the computer screen when you said that. When I said that.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that you had misspelled it. I probably caused you to misspell it.
It wasn't. No,
I think I did that with my mind.
No, I just got clumsy with it. Let's see here. Oregon, son of a bitch.
Yeah, see the Oregon State football. Usually, if you type in a college, like during college, a college team, and you type in the college's name during football season, that'll usually be the first thing that pops up. And you had to scroll down to find the Oregon State football.
Oregon State beat UCLA.
They did.
Yeah, 48-31. So UCLA is they didn't turn. Tim Bailey said they turned the corner when they beat Washington State. They haven't really turned the corner.
Right back around.
Well, I mean,
turn around.
They scored 31 points, I guess. But it is against the worst Pac team. I guess you would still say that Oregon State is the worst Pac team, and they just that makes UCLA the worst now, right?
Well, that would be like Tennessee losing to Vanderbilt. Oh wait, that happens a lot.
Actually, they haven't beat Vanderbilt since 15. I think.
I know. Jared Rifkin reminds us all the time on the face wall.
We got to bring him on.
We do. He's a good kid. I like him. He's been college shopping recently. So shout out to Jared Rifkin.
All right. So there was 7 people on the on listening to the cast. So I was going to say maybe we'll just throw another segment in. We'll do a what would we do?
Do I have to wear pants for this next segment?
Maybe.
Let's just call it let's just call it quits.
Let's
here.
do it.
I think we've done enough.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
Night, y'all.